So welcome to the AT Construction Podcast. I'm Brad Levitt, and we have a very special guest with us today, Shehan Ghanchi. So welcome, Shehan.
Hi, Brad. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you on. We met at the BizCom conference in Minnesota last year, and it was an amazing event, and you did a great job on that panel, and I know we had to get you on because you have some amazing information to share with us today. So
Yeah, it was wonderful. We got to do a panel together. I got to sit in on yours. It was a great event put on by our friends at Construction Style, and
yeah,
looking
Morgan and
forward to
Jamie
it.
are awesome. In fact, we had them on not too long ago on the podcast, and we're doing an amazing coalition
Hmm.
summit with them in Nashville in May, which is awesome. And I think Tile Shop's participating in that as well, which is
Absolutely.
super exciting. And Shahan is the director of marketing at the Tile Shop, and we love your product and everything you do, and we have a lot of it in our homes, as you know. So. But I wanted to touch base on marketing because as your director of marketing, a big thing for us in the building industry, whether we're designers, architects, or builders, is understanding how to market our brand. And so from the vendor perspective, what is your approach, as far as marketing strategy?
Yeah. So, um, it's we have a lot of different strategies in our media mix kind of at play. So we always are thinking about, where's our audience, which customer segments consuming what kind of media at what time in their purchase path. So there's multiple touch points to get to a conversion. So we kind of are thinking about constantly like we have what makes up our media mix and what different channels and performance metrics we should be thinking about for different channels. So it may vary by customer segment, our contractors versus our designers or our builders, and um, where they are, if they're upper funnel and it's more brand awareness versus lower funnel. So we have to always be playing around and really thinking about like that mix of where we're targeting our customer and what channels we're on. And then we have fun stuff like brand partnerships, influencer partnerships, and different ways we engage with our customer as well.
I love that. I want to touch
Yeah.
on that in a little bit here, just, to speak about that perspective. But I think what's interesting from your side is that it's a little challenging in the sense that you're not just marketing to me, right? To a builder. You're not just marketing to a designer. You also have the consumer, like the normal consumer that's coming
Mhm.
in, the retail side. So how does that change just when you're looking at this? We have the consumer, but we also have the trade relationship. And so those two that are totally different.
Right. And you speak to them differently, they consume information differently. So it does get more complex, but I think that's kind of the fun of what I get to do all the time. It's always keeps you on your toes, right? But yeah, I think just in general, media and the media mix has changed so much. Even, with trades and homeowners, we're all consumers in some respect, right? So we've started digesting our stuff differently, moving from maybe obviously there's digital now versus our print, but there's always like new channels, new strategies. So I think, when we're trying to think of the different audiences, we think about where are they consuming, or digesting the most media, where can we reach them most effectively, how do they find information, and how do they, build partnerships? Because with trades, it's very relationship heavy too. So a lot more spent on building, that relationship. And then, but at the same time, I mean, people in the trade are also consumers. So, you know, there's something to be said for that across all channels as well.
Yeah, it's interesting because to that point that you're making, Shahan, is when you're thinking about us as the trades, like I know I follow a lot of other builders and designers and architects, right? So as they're
Right.
posting things or trends, it's like, okay, what's that product? We're definitely the tile shop, and then how do we incorporate that? Because it fits. And so I think that's an interesting strategy. As you and Sarah are tracking this stuff at the tile shop, do you find different platforms more valuable? Do you find that a lot of the clientele that are coming into the tile shop maybe gravitate to one or two of them more specifically?
Yeah, and even different platforms serve different purposes, right? Some like your Pinterest, they're more upper funnel, even within, the trade, professions. They're inspiration driven. You're looking more for certain KPIs like engagement and traffic. But when you get into other funnels or, other channels, Facebook or Instagram, you do start to see differences between your customer segments or your trade audiences and what they're reacting to and which ones seem to be ones that they're engaging more with to drive, just relationships again, essentially, which is, new accounts or creating things like that. So we look at each a little differently. And I think with new channels, like you have TikTok, and all these things, you just have to stay like curious and constantly evolving. And I think that curiosity helps you combine with like, looking at your metrics and just listening to your customers really helps you be adaptable with the ever changing. We don't know what's the next channel, right? So it could be something new, but I think curiosity really helps with you learning about how they all kind of work together in different ways.
I love how you left us with that nugget right there to stay curious, right? Because I think it can be overwhelming, especially if all of us are looking at our brand strategies. There's so many different aspects. What brings value? Where's that ROI, right, on the time and investment we're putting in? But what's interesting, you said stay curious, because I look at it from the builder side. We're a little slow and adaptive to change, right? Like it takes us a little while. And I know when TikTok came out, we didn't really understand that platform. And a lot of builders that I know are like, well, Instagram works. I like Instagram. I know the platform. And Instagram or TikTok's like totally different. But then as you venture in and realize, okay, there can be growth and what that growth looks like, and how that impacts our business or referrals or, lead generation, still not sure. But to your point, it's like, stay curious, stay relevant, because there is different demographics like on each platform.
Right. And they're looking for different information and yeah, I think being curious, being not afraid to test and learn again and again. And, the fun thing about some of the digital stuff like social is that it's not, it's more transient. Like things can come and go, trends come and go. So it kind of lets you play with flexibility and creativity in that sense. So I think that's what's really exciting about a lot of those channels and testing the different ways you may engage with the different audiences.
So how, from your side, from a brand as a vendor at the tile shop, I would imagine in the past, as you're trying to create marketing strategies, whether it's print or even digital media, there's still images, right? You have to have images. And in the past, I'd imagine you'd have to set up, vignettes, photography. How's that changed now with influencers? Because they may have this amazing bathroom when they're doing a video walkthrough or photography. Has that helped, just the brand strategy working with influencers for their content to show this is real application of someone's home?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's everything kind of, has worked together as socials come, over the past couple of years just grown to be this huge beast and you need to feed this content engine. I mean, it's unrealistic to think brands can, even like ourselves, we have over 5,000 products. It's unrealistic to think we can rip out and build beautiful, vignettes for every single product or, but people need to see the product installed just like, to see and believe in that. And I think as we all know and have seen, people really engage with real people's spaces the most and real spaces. So with influencers, it's been a great and just the rise of social and sharing and just being, proud of spaces and building communities has been a great way for, I think, brands and influencers to naturally form a relationship that's, obviously helps us from like asset wise or photography and product, but also just again, like there's so many other things that come to value from those relationships as well. But that, like you spoke to, that's huge. I mean, that's a big part of the business.
So it's interesting as you start thinking about the assets that maybe we deliver in that partnership as we're working with a company such as the Tile Shop. What if I'm a builder or designer architect looking to expand that reach and start building that communication with vendors, is there maybe not a secret to success, but what are things that you're looking for? And it may not be just follower count. It may not be reach. Right. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of things you're looking into, but how does a normal professional such as myself begin that communication and relationship with a vendor?
Yeah, well, so looking for is interesting because a lot of people may think it is follower count or something, but really we look at a lot of things. It's not always one size fits all. I mean, as you touched on previously, assets are a huge part of it. We really look for someone who we know can deliver quality, end product assets. But as far as like, when it comes to maybe followers, I mean, we look at a range of things when we're evaluating partnerships, and that's, how do they engage with their audience? Like, what is their brand that they've built for themselves based off of? Is it, someone, like Jamie and Morgan, like they are so transparent with their process. They bring you along the journey. They really are so authentic to their products they use, their partners, their just whole process. And they're such, thought leaders. And that's kind of how people who have been following them for a while really, are passionate about following that. There's other people who may have a really unique aesthetic that maybe the tile shop, our brand isn't our brand. If we were to make a vignette or we were to design something, we kind of have our own brand guidelines. We have our look, our style, but we really like to flex or use partnerships to flex into unique aesthetics or unique, applications of a product that we would not really be able to achieve, ourselves. So various things. I mean, followers sometimes isn't even in the picture. We've worked with people with barely any, but they're incredible at producing, content or you know, different styles. So it's kind of a range of things, I think.
Yeah, I love that you share that because I think one of the first items you shared was you said, how do they engage with their audience? And I think this is something that maybe a lot of us miss as we're looking about or as we're setting our marketing strategy, right? We're putting out content and, there's different ways to do that, different platforms that we've spoken about. But one thing that we don't look as much as from my perspective, I know a lot of people that aren't engaging, and it doesn't mean that you have to go and comment on every single comment on your feed, right? But how do you engage with your audience? How are you answering questions? How are you delivering that message? And to your point, you said that, become a thought leader, and this is like Jamie and Morgan, right? With construction style, what they do a really good job of is they're super transparent. And I know from their blog and their YouTube videos that, hey, here's A to B, here's how we do it, here's what it costs. And they may not disclose the pricing of, how to do a bathroom remodel for a client, but on their own house, they can and say, here's what it would have been if we'd have hired it out. Here's a sell performance, and here's the products we use. And so there's different ways to really engage with the audience and answer those questions without having to respond to each and every comment.
Right. And I think you yourself, as you've, created your brand and your channels, it's how you not only engage with like your, followers or your audience, but your community, which is your other professionals and your network of trusted partners. I think we always look at that too, kind of like how are they, engaging with other designers, or they, we love promoting our installers. Installers bring a lot of the design. They're the last ones, finishing off the finishing touches. How do we promote or support them, or how does this designer support her installer? Or we love to look at all those different aspects and not necessarily one. And then I think just authentic, voice. So sometimes, as again, you and I are consumers, if we see a sponsored post, or an ad, or someone who's promoting a product, like you can tell. So sometimes it's something like that. We always, like to look at like, how do they really talk about their partners? Is it something that feels genuine?
I love that. I think, the genuine side of it is really important because, all of us have to stay true to like our brand and our direction and what we're trying to achieve. And at the same time, there's a lot of collaboration. I know even outside of just, the monetary side of working with vendors, more importantly, I've seen where I have relationships, with my vendors personally. It's like Shehan, like you, like I know that if I needed something from the tile shop, I have a direct connect, right? They can put me in the right, speak to the right person. Same thing with Kohler. I mean, Kohler, we have a project where one of our designers, Jamie Rose, is doing her own house, and she wants this like specialized fixture, and it's going to be an amazing fixture. And having built that relationship with Kohler, I have someone that I could text right away, and they're like, Brad, yeah, we'll make this happen. And so that's something that I never saw as an advantage of social media when I first started, is that, hey, even above the partnership, like there's relationships built, because this is a relationship business where now we're dealing with inflation and supply chain, that, hey, we have direct connects with actual real people that I know behind the scenes, and there's a lot of value there.
Oh yeah. And I would just, to even emphasize, ultimately with our partnerships, like we're really looking for a relationship. Like we like to have long-standing relationships where we're working just like with a homeowner. We're working with this pro and they're coming back and we're doing another partnership with them in their next house they're doing, or, that's what we're ultimately looking for. So I think that what you're saying is 100% true. And building those relationships, I mean, for us on our side as well, I was just speaking with our product designer, and she was like, can we pull together, a list of, let's grab some of those, your partners, your ones you trust the most, and I want to ask them some questions. So, just being able to know both ways, like you have someone to reach out to, or we can have, have a sounding board for a new concept. Like we really look at some of these partnerships as like long-term, relationships.
Yeah, and I love that. I know my clients love it too because, they're when they know that their house can maybe be built quicker, especially right now, or they have connections to supply chain and some of the material that they're looking at, or even some custom things, right, that are one-off for them. I know they've benefited a lot from the relationships we built through this, and I love that you said it's a long game, right? And I look at my business as a long game as well. This is not something where reputation-wise we're trying to be in and out to the next deal. It's like, well, and we're not perfect. I mean, trust me, we have mistakes all the time, and we're learning and growing, and as a company. But we look at our clientele as well and said, hey, I want the relationship to not just this project, but down the road, your next home, or for, your children sometime, that hopefully these relationships are outstanding, because that's super important. And you also touched on the relationship inside the professional network, right? How I work with designers and architects. And, early on, having made plenty of mistakes, it's like, well, we're going to change this. We're only doing a project if the client hires a designer and architect. Like, I'm not going to do a project without an interior designer. But the selfish side, and I know a peer of mine that was building his company, there was an architect in his demographic that he wanted to work with. And so he pursued this, brought a job to this architect that, they hired them. And now he was able to work with this architect and build that brand. And you see how that professional collaboration benefits us individually, our marketing strategy, as well as the vendors, right, that are part of that.
Right. I mean, it's expanding your network, you're, promoting others. And I think for you too, just your dedication to, quality craftsmanship, quality work. I think it just goes to show when people are partnering with you, they know what to expect too as you build that network, and they know, that's something that we look for. So I think it's wonderful to see when vendors do that.
So speaking about inflation and the demand that's out there, I mean, you're at the core of this right now. And so how are you navigating just the challenges of product? Because I would imagine not everything's domestic. And so you're working with, multiple parties that are supplying you. And so how does that all work?
I mean, I think as everyone's gone through this together, the new normal is sort of abnormal. So it's a new norm we live in, of just, we've now set ourselves in a good position to be able to handle with current events, you never know what might be the next thing that may cause disruptions in supply chain, right? But it's not something that we're not familiar with anymore. So I think from our side, we just, from the product, manufacturing and demand side, it's diversifying our suppliers and just making sure that we are able to respond and flexible if needed be. I think a lot of companies, including ourselves, had to obviously adjust pricing and things, as most retailers did, just from pricing changes and, things like that, which was across the board. But I think us and many others are now in much better positions to react to stuff.
Have you found that tough, just trying to pivot when you have, I would imagine this probably isn't totally your role, so I may be a little unfair here, but, as you're looking at pricing, different products and stuff, and then all of a sudden, right now, fuels changes, so it changes freight and distribution. And, I'd imagine this is something that you're constantly as a company at the Tile Shop looking at to gauge and network, through all the metrics that you're tracking.
Yeah, I mean, it is. And our product, it's not something I live in day to day, but I definitely see, the trickle down. Obviously, it trickles down to everything from the whole enterprise position. So it is something, but I think if there's anything the Tile Shop is, it's very resilient and very, adaptable. And we've gone through a lot of different things, and everyone's gone through COVID. So I feel like we've made our, selves in a good position basically to handle that. And I think our teams themselves are really resilient and understanding, and we're really, I think, communicating and just making sure we're communicating with our stores and communicating internally and communicating so that we can communicate with customers is critical. And that's allowed us, to feel like we can, manage these significant impacts or changes over time because we just work closely together and we place a lot of emphasis on communication.
Well, I've noticed that. I mean, I would say for as big as the tile shop is, I mean, in a compliment to you, it feels like a small company, right? Like you're working with someone because everyone, I know when I was there in Minnesota, meeting some of the team, and it just has a different feel just as far as communication and so responsive. And I know for me, it's been a huge benefit. And so I think that's pretty unique, especially in our industry right now.
Yeah, well, I think communication and relationships, it's the crux of so many successful people, businesses. So it's something that we really take to heart, and we are, I mean, relatively small, I would say too. So I think, we like to keep it that way where it feels like you're part of something, not part of, a number on something. Nothing's transactional. It's a true, partnership.
And I love that you spoke about communication. I'll give a little example yesterday. So there was a client I met with probably a year ago, and we met, and they ended up purchasing a piece of land here in town, and the land had a builder on it. And so, of course they were locked in there, but they had mentioned that when they followed up with me yesterday, and this is a year later, just some of the pains happening, and their biggest thing, which all the feedback I get from all the clients are the same thing. It's either site cleanliness or communication, right? And for whatever reason, right now, a lot of the builders are struggling communicating, or just being responsive. And again, we're not perfect, but one thing I'll tell my clients, like, if you call me, I'll pick up the phone, and I'll get back to you right away if I'm in a meeting. And that's key because it just gets lost. And other clients that are like, hey, I've reached out to builders, they won't call me back. If it's this painful in the beginning, how's it going to be like during construction? Mm-hmm. And it's just such low hanging fruit, right? And I've noticed that with some of our vendors too. When I, as I tell our team, as we work, not only we have to understand from the client perspective, when we're working with our partners and vendors, it's the same thing. They may not have a good answer. They may say, hey, Brad, this is back ordered for 6 months or whatever. Yeah. But if we have that open communication, at least we can plan and strategize around it. It's so important. And that's just something that is unique to the tile shop, not others, that, hey, they're communicating, we have a clear understanding, and then we can react accordingly.
Right. And I think for, and back to just influencer partnerships, as we've had to kind of adapt to this like changing, product demand. I mean, sometimes we can't fully predict how quickly something might deplete, and everyone's trying to get as much, inventory as they can right now. So especially with partnerships, like, I think we've done a really good job, and we place a lot of emphasis on, Sarah, my colleague who manages our partnerships, will make sure we're checking stock if things are in, flux, or we're working on, an agreement that hasn't completely been formalized or finalized. So we haven't placed orders. She's really on top of, and we're really emphasizing being on top of just making sure, okay, we're lower here, like timing's here. Is this okay? We like to make sure that there's a lot of communication, because once things get moving, I mean, already with delays, just to be able to make everyone feel better prepared and planned for any project is super helpful. And I think people are more aware of that things can happen and delays can happen, but it's just being upfront about that.
And when you're looking, going back to a little bit of the marketing strategy and as well as supply chain is now, there's a lot of reach that you may have through the social media and through the influencers and other partnerships, digital content. Mm-hmm. How important is it still, though, the brick and mortar, physical, where people can come in, see the store, see the product?
I mean, we started as a brick and mortar. We're a brick and mortar, retailer at heart. At our core, we love it. We love that experience for customers. I think now, so we place a lot of emphasis on it. We want our customers to experience our stores, to experience our store associates, their benefits to a homeowner just as much as they are to a pro, being a trusted partner in that process. But obviously the world changes too, and and everyone adapts. And I think, right, now we just want to make sure we can meet the customer wherever they are and be a true, omni-channel experience, whether they want to shop in the store or they want to shop online or they want to do a mix. We want to make sure that we're there and we're able to service them however, and they want to be, however they want to work with us. So,
and what are some of your key locations? When you look at the brick and mortar side, I know you have one right around the corner from my office here in mm-hmm. Scottsdale, but nationally, what's the reach, for the tile shop?
Yeah, well, we do have 143 stores. in 31 states. So primarily in the Midwest, Northeast. We're not all the way out west yet. So, but a great footprint, which I think is really beneficial for people who are builders or designers who are working cross country for, um, winter homes or second homes. It's really nice to have access to so many brick and mortars available. We have multiple distribution centers where we're stocking products so product can arrive and move quickly. Um, so it's a really nice network for us to expand on.
And I know that's important because I have a lot of our Midwestern friends that
Yeah,
move to Arizona, right? They get
you're
a little
very
tired of
well
the cold up in
aware.
Minnesota. So,
Yes.
so they know the product. That makes it easy because even if they're at home, during the off season, when it's pretty hot here in the summer, they can stop by your place there.
Yep.
And you, which is key. But I know one thing that I really love is that you also spoke about the installer side, right? And how the installers either react to the product or are advertising or pushing it. And the reason I want to touch upon that is because right now, all of us are dealing with, labor issues, trade issues. The installer doesn't get a lot of the credit, right? When it goes in, the final pictures are amazing, but they're not always involved in that process. And it's important because, for us especially for you as a manufacturer, that you have your own product and to make sure it's installed correctly, it's done right. How do you teach, us as those that are working with our installers, to make sure it's done right and done properly, that continuing education?
Yeah, well, I think a lot of it starts too with that installer community, which in and of itself has really grown in a social sense over the past couple of years. I think if you think, the builder, everyone, our trades are a little slower from that perspective to the punch, but I think installers even more so. But um, I think it starts with them also just promoting the knowledge and just advancements that have come in the field from tools to installation methods and best practices, promoting, the best in class, the certified tile installers, promoting and supporting the National Tile Contractors Association. Those are all things that I think help from the ground up, just build that, um, elevate that part of the design and elevate the installer essentially because their work is they're artisans. Truthfully, I think their work is down to like the millimeter when you're like looking at some of these layouts. It's really incredible. So I think there's a lot to be said for what they do. And I think, like you said, they sometimes don't get the credit. And as they become more, you know, elevate that within their own community, I think that helps everyone in the industry overall really understand how important all these pieces work together to create the beautiful image that we're scrolling through on Instagram or liking.
Well, it's interesting you bring that up because it always fascinates me speaking with vendors because their scope of work is so much more grand than we can appreciate in most cases, because it's like, hey, I need this product, get installed, move forward, right? But you don't think about the complexity of your business in the sense that, as you mentioned, it's like, it's not like we have any favors going like everything's just 12 by 12 square tile, right?
Yeah.
There's some really complicated product
Yeah.
that's amazing, but it's really complicated and it has to be really precise, as you mentioned. And what's important is there's a whole R&D side from you to understand, okay, how is this installed? Like, how is this going to be maintained and installed properly to achieve that? And the amount of communication with trusted vendors to qualify them and to make sure that they're installing it properly. I mean, that's a whole arm in itself.
Totally. And I mean, as we spoke to earlier with, partnerships like ourselves and how we work so closely with our vendors, we do the same thing with installers and with our, installation materials vendors and partners. And we're constantly, the tiles evolving faster than the materials and the substrates and everything. So it's been really cool, to see and inspiring to see how the installer community has kind of really grown. And there's a lot of thought leaders there that are, want to support each other and want to support growing that profession and showing the, you know, gratification that comes with what they do and teaching each other on these large, slabs and teaching each other about how to do curbless entries or scribing and all the little details that it's so beautiful in a picture, but it's all, there's no handbook for it, as you could say. There's no course on it necessarily.
Yeah, I love that you share that, and we're pretty fortunate. I'll give a plug to a couple of my installers. I mean, Summit Stone is one we use, and we had this fireplace, and our designer, Kristen at the Lifestyle Co, who knows, she had designed this incredible fireplace wall, all slab. And one thing, okay, now it falls on us, right? To figure out, okay, the design that she had wanted was a thicker, it wasn't like the 6 mm, it was a thicker 2 cm, which is even more heavy. Yep. And so you think, okay, you're installing the 16, 18 feet high, these slabs, right, on the fireplace wall. And just the complexity is, okay, well, how do we anchor this, with angle iron and, to make sure it's supported. And, it was a very challenging install, and one thing is we look at this picture and it looks amazing on Instagram and it looks amazing on Pinterest, but the complexity behind that's something that is often missed by most people. And really, credit to our vendors such as yourself that are really involved in that application and install to make sure it's done correctly and will perform over time.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's really important. We want people to have these spaces and enjoy them for years. I mean, that's the beauty of tile. Truthfully, it's a classic material that can withstand the test of time. And nothing's more upsetting than getting through a huge remodel and then there's a leak or there's, a failure in a shower pan or, something, got screwed through a drywall and didn't get properly, waterproofed. So it's just, or, missing an expansion joint on a large project and, having breakage. It's just, there's so many things that you don't even think about that come into making these spaces that your designers have to think about and installers and yourselves. So it's kind of a fun part though.
Yeah. Do you ever have to deal with us trades or professionals where they may be upset or clients? I mean, how do you navigate through, maybe having those hard conversations if a product's not available or, the installer had an issue or whatever maybe?
It's happened. I mean, all of the above have happened and we can only do, the Tile Shop doesn't provide installation. We can, give a reference to people we've previously worked with and things like that. So, but we always like to be, we want the customer to be happy in the end. So we'll own it if it's for some reason a product failure or for some reason, but it'll come up and it's obviously, not always the most fun conversation. I'm sure you've had a handful of, not fun conversations. We just actually had one with a great, awesome influencer partner who is, more of a DIYer redoing an old home and just a stunning design, stunning execution. And we kind of came across on social some of the installation methods that were happening for the waterproofing. And we were like, well, that's, it's our job as a partner, as their partner in this space, to just let them know this is, we feel responsible, even though we're not necessarily. I feel like it's our job to be that partner and say, these are best practices. This is something we noticed. We will support. If this is something you want to redo, we're fine giving you product because, we want you to be happy in the space for a long time and nothing would be worse than that. And so we'll have in that case, we had one of our technical experts hop on a call, talk through everything. After talking through things, there was a little bit more maybe we didn't catch on social, so they felt more confident in everything. But they were just appreciative that we stood and we were like, as a professional in this sense, like here's our best advice, and you can take it. We're here to support you with whichever way you go. So I think it's just being able to understand how they are feeling, or how and be flexible and be a good partner.
That's impressive because, you think about one thing, it's, selfishly it'd be easy to sit there and look at, hey, there's this amazing product. Look how it's installed. The photography is amazing. But to actually look at the technical side to say, hey, there is a concern here, based on the installation, and to really, have the courage to address that, with your partner. I mean, it just, there's a lot of value there, to be willing to fall on the sword, if you will, to say, hey, we need to make a change here. Yeah.
And sometimes it's not a fun conversation. Sometimes it's like, oh my gosh, we didn't even realize, So, it's again, learning as types of projects change. it's learning as we go how we kind of think about that up front, or be, again, it's another way to be like, okay, this is something we can think about communicating about in the future, just to help.
Well, it's
I
interesting
like that.
because going back to the social media, I know, and I believe I've said this on the podcast before, but I know a lot of people in the industry are hesitant to show maybe installation practices or behind the scenes, if you will, as you
Hmm.
mentioned, Morgan and Jamie do. And the reason they do that is they're like, well, I'm worried about trolls because everyone comes out saying you're doing it wrong or you're doing this or whatever, right? You kind of have that feedback from everyone that's a professional or has their way of doing it in their own market. And I've had a lot of talks with Nick Schiffer about this with NS Builders because I found at one point, this was a couple of years ago, we were doing and like is an integrated roof drain. So it's like this modern home. We're trying to not put like scuppers on there, you know, and we're trying to hide how we're going to divert the water, right? And so there's an integrated rain gutter, so we didn't have exposed rain gutters on the house. And a couple builders, actually, it was a building science guy in New York, reached out on LinkedIn and he's like, "Hey, Brad, do not do it this way. Like, this is going to fail. I'm telling you, you're going to have issues down the road. It's going to be a warranty nightmare. You won't be able to find the leaks." And he's dealt with this for 20 years in the profession. And so he put me in contact with someone who actually has a different detail. And we changed the whole thing. And what I found is that, to your point, Shehan, is that it's not just, hey, you know, we're doing something wrong, but actually they're giving us benefit. If we really look at it and want to look at this at perfecting our business, is it's okay to be transparent because we're all learning and there's different things that you may know as a manufacturer to say, hey, hold tight, make sure you make this change, and it's going to be better in the long run for you and the customer.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, not everyone is as open probably as you are to that, I would say, but I think it's getting there. I think there's definitely, and there, there's more community support that I think is being, promoted and supportive. And I think people like yourself leading and in different areas of the industry from installers, there's people who really promote that. And I think that's what's really wonderful because I mean, we can always learn something new. There's never something, when you think you've learned it all, then you're done learning.
Yeah, especially in our
You're
industry.
done growing, I would say. So I think that's a great thing. But it's taught us too how to think about when we're approached with partnerships of different scales, types, whether it's a builder, designer, or if it's a DIYer, it's really helped us refine strategies or refine how we what we look for up front as we talk through a partnership or talk through what that would look like with someone because we want to try to get ahead of those things, but things still happen.
So when a professional is working with you, in a relationship or sponsorship or whatever you may call it, I know without getting into specifics, that formula can be very different depending on, for a lot of reasons, whatever their demographic or their installation or their business model. I mean, that can vary, but how does a professional bring value to you, right? And you mentioned that, yeah, they're a thought leader, maybe they show the process, but are there certain specifics, whether it be content or blogs? I mean, what is it you're typically looking for in that relationship?
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess to simplify it a bit, like how to approach it in general. So I think understanding, what is it that you bring? So ultimately, I think, each person, again, like each partnership might bring something slightly different, but really having the influencer or, understand what do I bring? So is it, I have an incredible blog and I know I want to give you blog content and, I'm going to redo this space, or is it I have incredible engagement on my Instagram and I really am successful at taking people through that. I'm going to give you stories. I'm going to give you reels. I mean, something that brands really, I think, well, at least for the towel shop, it's an endless content and like you need to feed that, you know, all the time. So content's great. So reels or photography or assets or things to play around with are great ways to provide value. Um, I think, we evaluate amongst, you know, obviously there's times we do this for a product exchange, there's times for simple product exchange, and there's times we do it from a monetary standpoint where we're providing product as well as compensation for time because we want to give credit and we want to, you know, honor what people have built. So if an influencer's built an incredible audience and they've done so much to create this brand, and you know, they deserve that for their time, for the time and effort they're putting into building these assets for us.
What's interesting is when you're looking at this relationship, and I think the value that you're saying that we need to bring, which is super interesting, it's really understanding how we're producing this content. And it could be through blog, it could be through stories, it could be still or static posts on our feeds. But really you're looking at how we engage with our audience, and really those are the assets that you're looking for and how we build that. And it's interesting because that makes me think about how do I approach, you know, my marketing strategies, not just to the public, but also to our vendors, you know, and making sure that the assets are being delivered to them in a way that is advantageous, because it's a mutual relationship, as you mentioned. And, you know, from your side on the marketing side though, Shehan, is it really tough? Do you get a lot of inquiries, you know, direct messages? I can imagine that, you know, I see what comes through on my feed, but I would imagine on yours, hey, we have this project. I would imagine there's a lot for you and Sarah to go through and say, is this valid? Is this something we want to pursue?
Yeah, no, and it's funny because people may think, you know, oh, I don't want to Instagram or direct message a brand, and I don't know. For us, it's like, well, there's someone behind all those that's reading those and sending them up and adding them to a document and reviewing them, and we're reviewing things all the time. So I think it's, I guess, you know, what's wonderful to see is opportunities where, again, reiterating, like knowing what value this person brings, or value this opportunity will have, in addition to just details around the project. I mean, we get a lot of inquiries, so upfront saving time and being really clear on, like, this is kind of what I'm envisioning, this is the timeline I have in mind, this is my mood board, this is what you know, I've had really success, you know, creating reels, or I noticed you're not on TikTok, or innovative stuff. Again, we're a very curious brand. We like to test and learn and try new things. So I think the more that can be kind of presented, or, you know, to lead from, is always super helpful.
I love that you shared that, because from my perspective, you know, and I've said this before, is like on LinkedIn, I'll connect with someone and then right away you get a direct message beam, like, let me sell you this or let me do this. And there's no relationship, right? And what got me one time, I had a trade partner, a subcontractor, reached out and said, hey, Brad, I have a job for you. Can we meet? And it's the first time I'd met this person. I'm like, okay, you got me. You know, that's kind of interesting. Yeah. Instead of just saying, hey, can I bid your work? It's like, no, I'm bringing you in. And so I've seen that strategy different. And as you mentioned, it's like someone that comes in prepared, right? Either their prep work, their mood board, you know, anything they have that's innovative, you know, maybe a market that they're looking at, the tile shop, maybe, you know, it'd be prevalent, but we can help you with that. Yep. And so there's value they're bringing in. What's interesting that I want to ask you about is, I'm sure you've seen the marketing industry change, especially as your role as director of marketing. I mean, how has that changed in the last 10 years to where we are now? I mean, I would imagine it's completely different.
Yeah, I mean, it's incredible to think about what even just 10 years ago looked like, even 5 years ago, from influencer strategies or brand strategies. I don't think they were as significant of funnels yet in the marketing and overall strategic roadmap. But truthfully, it's just, I mean, social is almost your modern day PR. It's your word of mouth, you know, so implementing social strategies is so critical. And now with the way people consume so quickly, and with video on the rise, I mean, it's just really changed the way teams produce content or view how to strategically acquire or work with people to provide content. So, I mean, like you said, again, if people approach us and they're in a specific market, you know, we do have our brick and mortar stores. Sometimes something might not work perfectly, but these are opportunities. Again, we funnel that through just our you know, professional program, or we look for a local relationship to build, because there's always micro influencers that might not be managed at a corporate level. But I think over the past 10 years, again, it's just, we've had to diversify so much of how we communicate with our customers, and really understand that channels and what they're used for can change fairly quickly in the span of months to a year, of, you know, being a high conversion driving channel to maybe more of an awareness channel. And you just have to be, again, constantly kind of looking at how your customers are engaging with you, and again, talking to your customers having that deep connection, which again, these partnerships help with, is really giving you a deep insights into your customer and their way they're shopping with you.
So how, based on that experience and that explanation of how you've seen the market change and, especially when it comes to marketing and branding, do you have recommendations for, companies, as they're looking at how they're building their strategy, where's the future going? What are you seeing from your side?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think digital obviously is huge. We still employ traditional media. I mean, we still do print. We still are even doing, some radio testing and things because we constantly want to understand, and we do, analysis on where our marketing dollars and their effectiveness. But I mean, there's so much to be said for social, so much to be said, and that's across, your TikToks, your YouTube, things like that. But I think it's okay to find what you're really good at too, and just really work on that. And instead of, like you had mentioned before in our conversation, feel this pressure to like have to do something on everything because that doesn't
Right.
always translate and that doesn't always work. So, you have to do what you're good at and then also figure that out, I think, and then, you know, focus your energy. And so you're not, running around all the time like a chicken with your head cut off. But um, yeah, so I think there's so much power in social. There's so many opportunities now to be collaborative, to do partnerships, to, look at different ways you can support your business by leveraging partnerships and your vendors and your um, looking at it that way. And then always, I think, and as you've spoken to many times on your podcast and in any, it's your website and thinking about, ultimately a lot of these things are driving people to a website. So giving them that experience that really marries up to everything you're sharing on other channels.
Yeah, it's fascinating, as we track this more over the years to see where, the business development arm or the clients are coming in from, right? And it's so different. I mean, the demographic is so different on so many. And that's why you mentioned, be curious. And, my friends
Yep.
at Cardinal Crest in Kansas City, Joe and Adam, they're funny because they're very professional on their like Instagram and LinkedIn, and then you get on TikTok and they do all the
Yeah.
TikTok trends and they're dancing and doing funny things at the office. And so you can have a little fun too, where,
Mhm.
depending on the platform on the audience, because they are completely different, where it may not translate to Instagram, but it definitely works on TikTok.
Right. I think that's mix is great. I think having that kind of range and being able to do that is wonderful. Some people, um, that's a great skill set because not a lot of people can do that very
I,
well.
I don't think anyone wants to see me dancing on those. That would not be
Yeah,
good. But
me either.
so how often does Tile Shop, when you're looking as a brand, and we spoke a lot in this conversation about the relationship between professionals, even the consumer, the retail side, do you ever partner with other vendors, other brands in the industry?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think we do partnerships in a lot of ways with other brands. We do obviously we have designer collection collaboration, so just like a product development opportunity. So we kind of look at those partnerships as, what other brands feel like this, or, a customer looks at a space of tile, they want the whole look. Like what other brands fall into this aesthetic and our demographics that feel like they would really resonate with our customers. And we work with brands from a product development standpoint, but we also work with them, maybe more behind the scenes. We work with potential, countertop companies for photo shoots. Again, everyone's looking for wonderful assets. You could have people in studios all day long and you probably still wouldn't get photos, amazing, incredible photos of everything, every product, out there. But we partner with different brands, even from a photography standpoint, with lighting or hardware or um, cabinetry. So there's lots of different ways we do that. Again, it's leveraging your partnerships and your relationships to find those mutually beneficial opportunities.
So diverting now to the Tile Shop, in your relationship with the trade itself, or maybe the designer, builder, how does that trade partnership work?
Yeah, so we do have an exclusive program for trade professionals, and knowing that different tradespeople like yourself versus a contractor may shop differently, or their experience with the tile shop could be significantly different from a purchase standpoint. We've really tried to think about the best way to service however it is or whatever tradesperson it is that is shopping with us. So we have, obviously exclusive pricing based on, you know, um, total spend or referral dollars. So a a tiered pricing system for professionals who do buy the product themselves. But we also have a referral program for those that, may be referring a homeowner in who'd prefer to buy, or a designer who's maybe referring for the installers who are going to buy for a builder. So giving credit to, the person who's really driving that sale, but may not be the one who's actually making the purchase. So there's a program for referrals for that. And then, different benefits to service different types of clients, free samples or free delivery. There's lots of different, benefits within the program to support each type of trade profession.
What is the best way? So for someone such as myself, if we're purchasing a lot from the tile shop or we're referring, how would we go about setting that up or get in contact? Is that just we go to our local distributor, our local brick and mortar, or what's the best way?
Yep, you can actually sign up online on tileshop.com as a pro, and that will be then sent to our store teams, our team of pro market managers who handle all of our pro sales, and pro relationships. So you can do that online, or you could visit a brick and mortar and get started and signed up in one of the physical stores as well.
So based on all your years at the tile shop and everything we discussed, what's your favorite thing about working there?
Oh gosh, well, yeah, I've been with the tile shop over 7 years now, and
Wow.
I would have to say that um, I think the people are wonderful. I think I get to work every day with incredible people who care just as much about each other as they do the business. I think I love the product we work with. I'm like a tile geek. I love how beautiful tile can be, how what a impact it can make in the space. It's more than a functional element. It's really a design element, and I think we've seen that really come to life over the evolution of the product in the past 7 to 10 years, truthfully. And then I love the people get to work with like yourself. I think it's wonderful to have such an array of professionals that you get to learn from. I think I'm constantly learning, and I think that's a beautiful thing in any role.
Well, truth be
So,
told, I can tell you from the building side, I'm often asked, like, what's your favorite part about building? And I love that you have something that was nothing or maybe an imagination or drawing, right? Then it comes to fruition and reality.
yeah,
And then to see our users, whether it's commercial or residential, that now enjoy the space and how they use it and see how their family enjoys it. But I will say during the building process, like one of my favorite phases in the construction schedule is like the tile. Like when we start installing, right after the home's drywalled and we're prepping and doing the mud set, doing the showers and
yeah.
the tile starts going in or the accent walls. I mean, it's fun because as you mentioned, I mean, the tile just brings so much life to the home and it just completely changes it from that blank slate.
Yeah, it's a historically really beautiful product. And I think always at that part when the tile starts going in, it's starting to feel so much more
Yeah.
real. So, and I love how you spoke to just what, we get to be in people's like intimate homes and spaces and these are significant decisions. They're significant projects. It's not deciding on a t-shirt that you're going to forget about you had or, you know, um, something like that. So I think that's something in itself that's really rewarding and gratifying about what we get to be a part of.
So a career path for you, I mean, did you anticipate coming into the construction industry? Was that always a goal or how did that opportunity present itself to be at the tile shop?
No, I don't think I did. Well, I was in the agency space more so, both actually at a sports agency and an advertising agency, and had a little stint in between the two where I taught English in Spain, so not really
Oh,
anything
wow.
related to
Yeah.
construction. But it just kind of when I was at an ad agency, it kind of fell into my lap as an account, and I just got really it opened up my eyes to this world that really I didn't know I loved so much. So, and then each year just getting to know the business deeper, getting to know the audience deeper and build our marketing and strategy. It's just been a constant exciting experience. So naturally, I think when you're really curious and engaged, um, it works out.
Yeah. And so outside of all of your time, I'm sure the tile shop commits you to a lot of personal time, at work, as many of us, are consumed by that. But what do you enjoy outside of that for fun?
Oh gosh. Well, I guess I have to say my dog, but but no, I love to travel. I like um hiking. I spend a lot of time with my family. I think that's a big part of my life. I raise monarchs in the summer, which I really
Wow.
enjoy. Or butterflies, actually swallowtails as well. Yeah, I think nothing too exciting. I'm a
That's
normal
amazing,
person.
monarchs. So what goes into raising monarchs?
It's actually really easy. It's a lot of work, I will say, once they get going. I had like 50 going at one time, and that was a lot. Need a lot of milkweed for that. But you can just you can just find little eggs on milkweed, and you take them home, and they literally just eat milkweed and grow into a chrysalis, and then they eclose into a beautiful monarch, and you release them. And then they only live for 2 weeks, but
Oh, do they really only live for 2 weeks?
well, yes, until their last generation, which is the one that travels to like Mexico, and those ones
Hmm.
live for a couple months, but that's not
Wow.
until the fall.
So after you're done raising them, then you just release them.
Yep, and then they hopefully make it to reproduce and everything, and then hopefully they make it till the fall.
That's amazing. So what do you have that's upcoming and excited for the tile shop?
Oh gosh. Well, I'd say lots of fun and exciting new collaborations with designers coming up across the board from, well-renowned names to, new up and coming designers. So a lot of fun product development is something that I get super excited about. And then I think I'm really excited about just the different ways we're looking at how we can better serve our customer and the improvements we're going to make to that experience. So um, I guess a lot of good stuff.
Well, it's exciting, and I know we'll be excited to follow along. So where can our listeners find you so that they can also stay tuned for all of, that exciting collaboration upcoming?
Yeah, well, you can follow the Tile Shop, I would say, on Instagram at the Tile Shop. Um, and that's a great way to find a lot of information. Obviously, Facebook, Instagram's great. And you can connect with me. I'm always looking for different partners, different ways we can work with pros in the industry. I'm on LinkedIn, Shehan Ghanchi, or on Instagram, She Ghanchi.
Well, Shehan, that's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. We'll make sure we have those handles in the show notes. And again, thank you for making time just to share a little bit more about that relationship with, vendor, partner, and the trades and everything that you shared from the marketing strategy. So really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Brad. This was wonderful. Well,